I think morning you heard about a keynote speech from Karthik, and also we just had a brilliant Made in Hyderabad sessions, which we heard a lot about AI, Gen AI, how they're going to change the world, how they started making life easier. We also heard about the keynote speaker talking about how co-pilots are helping him. At the same time, the previous speakers talked about creators, executors, operators, how the life is going to be for creators, who is the creators of AI, which is humans, and executors. I believe we are the ones who are executing and making it happen AI. And will we be the operators, or we don't have any space in the future? I think this topic is going to be human in the loop. All of us, I'm sure, equally excited, at the same time nervous about what's going to happen. Whether we are IT professionals, we are academic institutes, whether we come from whichever part of the world as a consumers, this is probably the time where the technology is not driving much faster than what it is. I think art of possible is there. We are seeing day to day. So today I've been very happy to share the stage with the distinguished panel members. Interestingly, our panel consists of the people who are been brilliantly working behind the scenes to build semiconductors in much faster way, and people who are driving much more scalar cloud platforms, and also IT services companies. We are growing fast, as well as the largest services and product companies in the panel. And I'm sure I can't find anything better than that to talk about human in the loop for today. So without any further ado, let me kickstart the session today by giving few probably provocative statements. The very first thing is about, as many of the leaders of AI, who are the pioneers of AI, who had a different views over a period of time, let me start with few quotes, what they said, and then I would like to hear from the panel what they think about it. I think many people would have heard about what Bill Gates said, Elon Musk mentioned about it, and recently, before, a few years back, what Stephen Hawking talked about, and many other science fiction movies what we have seen. Stephen Hawking mentioned about development of full AI could spell the end of human race. I don't know how many of you agree, disagree, but maybe we'll hear from the panel what they would like to say. The same way, somebody mentioned about robots will be doing everything better than us. Any guesses? That's Elon Musk. Then what else we are going to do in life? So that's going to be more provocative than anything else. So let me start today's conversation by requesting Aditya on my left-hand side to start with. There are many dangers. Is this the last invention of human beings? Is AI the last human invention? Is there any more work for humans beyond this? Are the dangers enough understood? Do we have anything in life? Over to you, Aditya.
Fantastic query. Actually, that's a fear that everybody has. But personally, because there are two very fundamental things that's still missing, in my opinion, if you call AI as an organic life being, inorganic life being, and we being the organic part of the life, right? One is it's not sentient. There is no consciousness. I know there was claim from Google's, where somebody who quit said that, it has developed consciousness. And another thing is being able to navigate in the physical space. But one thing it has definitely done, as Yuan, the great, philosopher, clearly said is AI is transcending the operating system of humanity, which is the language. It's able to generate with the new LLMs, with, the technologies that are coming through. It is definitely transcending into some of the operating system of how we communicate. So I personally believe, right, with the technology, it is going to make our lives way better. It's going to give us more time to value, both in the enterprise and on the consumer side, and it is going to make everything better. But given that we put in time the governances and checks across to keep it in check, otherwise we are in trouble. That's my opinion.
Let me pass the mic to Anuradha. I would like to hear from you in terms of what do you see at this point of time, benefits or the challenges, as we all should start worrying about.
Right, to talk and imagine something and give creative ideas. Whereas I need to prompt, I need to really ask it to give me a better answer. And in fact, the prompt also has to be so customized and so specific that it has to give me the answer I require. So in that way, the human will always be superior to AI, provided we use our creative skills, right? Creativity is very important, and it is very important that we build that cognitive skills which we have and really up the game and focus on how do we do better. If creativity was not there, we would not have had a Picasso or a Rabindranath Tagore or an Einstein, right? So definitely human will always be superior, and we have to ensure that we are leveraging, augmenting what we can do, as Aditya said, to our benefit, right? So that is in us to really leverage and really up our human intelligence is what I would say.
Thank you, Anuradha. I know that sounds more optimistic than what I started the topic with. I know since the first industrial revolution, I think there is always the space about what humans are going to do, automation, now then later digitization. Maybe we are in the world of AIification. There is always a mutual beneficial between humans and machines to make sure lives are much better and productivity. However, of late we have seen significant amount of advancements, right? I think we started the automation, or maybe what we call today is an AI, as an assistant, an assistant which is helping us to do day-to-day tasks, our co-pilots, or many other pieces. From there, we started believing AI to take the role of advisors, where I am sure some of you start doing AI as an advisor. Then we have started giving AI for a decision making, and then finally, the biggest worry in the world is about, will AI become a master? If AI become a master, what are we going to do? So maybe taking the evolution of assistant to the master, what is the life going to be, and what is that we should start thinking about it? What are the set of things as a human beings we should start doing about it? Let me request Kiran to give his perspective on this.
Thank you. Thanks, Jit, and thanks for your comments. Very interesting question. I think the way I looked at this, I thought, over the course of the last few decades, you had sort of AI take over what was being done by us as humans from a function of hand point of view. Essentially do stuff that is fairly mechanical in nature for a start. Automation plays a big manner. Of late now, with the current evolution in the last, say, few years or so, 4 or 5 years or so, I think increasingly the level of advancements of AI has been challenging the function of the mind itself, the function of the brain itself. I think that's where the complexity lies. I think people are beginning to suddenly start talking about truly artificial intelligence. So far it's probably automation until 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Now it's truly intelligence that these machines are beginning to compete with us as on. But from a risk point of view, I think I'm much more worried about joblessness, unfairness, and things like that than a Skynet type scenario. I think we'll all coexist. But the gradual effect of something like AI taking over jobs that most people perform today is going to be fairly challenging to address. I think the concept of equality of AI, creating a world where it is egalitarian, not biased towards one geography, one sect, these are the kinds of issues that I'm beginning to think as challenges that we will face as AI transcends from AI being an assistant to AI being a master, in your own words, that I see.
Taking a quote from Terminator to Judgment Day, the future is not set, there is no fate, but what we make for ourselves. So looking at that, what is the fate of AI being master tomorrow, in your view, in terms of how do we address this part of it?
We are almost at the world of destroying each other. I mean, that's the analogy I guess all of us can think of. And even today, when you look at the doomsday clock they have built, right, and they keep on updating it, they always say we are 90 seconds away from the world getting destroyed. But no, at the end of it, I think AI, at least, we have to have some checks and balances built in. Going back to Asimov, the famous science fiction writer who said, robots can do no harm is one of the laws inbuilt. Because just think about it. If you give AI the command, reduce global warming, and then AI could make a decision that humans are the biggest culprit of causing global warming, so maybe ergo, kill the humans. So no, we have to have certain safeguards in place for sure. At the moment, we are not there yet. I think we are talking about AI general intelligence, right? We went from AI, or rather artificial narrow intelligence, with Gen AI we went to artificial general intelligence. And I think what we're talking about in the next few years, AI superintelligence, artificial superintelligence, ASI, which is probably a few years away, but not too far in the future. Just a year ago from ChatGPT, what it was to what it is now, No, we certainly have to have some checks and balances in place. I think all of us are talking about it. Governments are talking about it. At Davos 2024, there were a lot of people who talked about it. So I have good hope that we don't kill each other using AI.
What are the skills that are required for this? If you are coming from an academic institute, these days the very first question, what curriculum we have to think about? What is the new generation have to start talking about? In my view, the current technical and leadership skills that exist in our industry may not be sufficient and suitable for the new AI world. Like every time we talk about a new world is coming, the new skills are required. And I happen to see the World Economic Forum, which published probably in last year, the top 10 skills that are required for human beings. It talks about creative thinking, analytical thinking, talent management, system thinking, etc., etc. But when I look at it, already the creative part of it started moving towards AI in last 12 months compared to since the report came. So is it the new technology skills or leadership skills, behavioral skills, soft skills, whatever skills we talk about it, what is that we should start worrying about it? And what is that something which we have to think about, the skills I'm learning today which are not suitable in next 12 months? How do individuals need to start looking at skills, learning, etc., etc.? I'll give it to you, Balaji.
Sure, thank you, Jit. You just now saw an example of bias. The minute Jit spoke about skills, he handed over the mic to me because of my title. Let's take a step back. I think picking up from where you left in terms of decision, data, etc. But in my experience, I've seen that data and analysis is one thing, but judgment, using the right data in the context and taking that right call is innately human. No AI can ever replicate that. So I personally believe that judgment is going to be at a premium, number one. Number two, let me take a completely different detour. See, let's also understand that organizations or the environment in which we stay, these are socio-technical systems, right? While there is the technical aspect of it, which is work, AI, structures, processes, etc., but there is a social element also. There are a lot of our socio-psychological needs which get satisfied in organizations or in the systems that we live in. And building from there, so that's one part of it, and I'll build up from there. The second part is that as and when new technologies come into play, whether it is AI or the earlier days, there's a lot of impact it has on people in the organizations, right? Their emotions, their feelings, and their anxiety. The skills which will be at premium. Now, with so much of data, so much of decision making available with us, intellectual capital and cognitive capital is no longer a premium, right? That's available. To my mind, what will actually differentiate are those people who are able to really leverage their social capital within the organizations and within systems and rally the entire organizations and the systems behind them. So social capital definitely will be at a premium. And of course, there are nuances in terms of how do you really define social capital. On the second note, since organizations are also psychosocial, organisms, and when a lot of this change happens, how do you really help people adapt to that change? That's where there's a new concept in organizational behavior called psychological capital, which is all about hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. And how do we really garner and harness that kind of psychological capital? So to answer your question straight, the effective leaders of tomorrow are the ones who will be able to really build social capital within organizations and will be able to harness the psychological capital of the humans in systems and organizations. And that's going to be the biggest differentiator, Jeff.
Great question, by the way, and I totally agree with Balaji. I think I would like to quote the IBM chief, Arvind Krishna, who also mentioned about 50 years ago, you needed a new skill every 30 years in your career. Just about a couple of years ago, it has come down to 7 years. So within your career span of, let's say, 30, 40 years, you have to upskill like 4 or 5 times. With AI, I think it's going to be ever faster than. And the second thing I would also like to quote is, the Accenture CEO in the recent Davos, she also mentioned basically that what we asked during our interview when we hire new talent, what have you learned new in the last 6 months? That is most important. It could be baking cake. It could be anything, non-technical. But basically what we want to see is you're learning frequently. So But totally agree with you, Balaji. I think the soft skills are going to be more important than ever. Because technology-wise, AI is probably going to do a better job than us.
And that actually builds the layer of what we call as learning agility. How fast are you able to really learn and contextualize your learning? Absolutely spot on.
Yeah. Thank you, Vishal and Balaji. So maybe, Anuradha, if I may ask to comment on that. We heard about social capital, psychological capital, and I'm sure in neighborhood, our cousins, friends, everyone keeps asking about what is the new skills we should acquire coming from colleges. And we talk about 1.4 billion population, lot of employment, X, Y, Z. But suddenly now we are talking about AI is going to take all the jobs. So how do people start thinking about it? Because the mentality or the mindset with which started working is about everyone going to engineering, computer science. What's the next big thing?
Yeah, I think some of the skilling part of it, Balaji and he covered. I think the mindset has to change. The softer skills aspect comes into picture. And it has to be looking at it from perspective of how do I apply AI first in whatever I'm doing as a fresher also. I need to be thinking of if I have to develop a code, how do I use AI and develop that code, right? It's about AI first, whatever they are doing, whatever is the use case. It is every use case has applicability for AI as a belief, right? Whether it is development of a code, whether it is supporting a customer, or you're looking at providing a user experience to the client, or you're looking at really transforming your own talent in the organization, HR, for instance, right? I mean, supporting the larger organization. So every aspect, every person in the organization has to learn AI, and generative AI also, right? And then look at how can I apply it in my scope of things. And the use cases are like vast, right? And I mean, sky is the limit. Every day we see a new use case actually. When you're talking to clients, we see that there is this also can be applicable here, right? So, and what we are seeing is that when we are taking it to the clients, they are looking at which are my challenges today. What are those areas where I'm facing lot of where I'm not able to transform today? How can I bring in AI there? And those are the use cases which are becoming more popular, like customer support, whether it is talent transformation, basically their own talent, how do they transform to really support and start using AI. Also looking at how do I bring in more experience to my client, better satisfaction to my clients through the chatbots and assistants. So I think, I believe that it is really transforming the way we're looking at it. And also the domain expertise also becomes important. I cannot just be technical. For me to know the use case, I need to know where does it apply in a client context or in a business context, and then apply it from that perspective. So I need to know if it is a banking client, if I want to improve the customer experience, the application which I'm building has to be supporting the client, responsive, and really able to help the client in a more faster way. So how do I build that application so that it is more responsive, right? So how do I apply AI in that use case? How do I use chatbots? How do I ensure that it is more customized for my particular user? Maybe premium banking client. So can I give a better experience to that individual? So there are so many use cases, and it has to be ingrained in us. And I feel it's a leadership challenge as well, frankly, right? There's so many out there. How do you ensure you're very specific and creating the lasting impact? That becomes very important for us, right? And leadership cannot be automated, right? So you have to think, you have to really guide your teams to look at which are those best use cases you should be applying, which will give the lasting impact, right? So definitely I feel it's a good time for leaders as well, because leaders also have to evolve and really look at how do I leverage the insights which are available, the data which is available, the trends which are available, and then augment my leadership skills so that I'm creating a lasting impact, right? So that's very important.
It's a fantastic point that Anuradha actually brought about is, can we start thinking AI first everywhere? In fact, if you look at how things have evolved, including, let's say, a typical example of customer support, you know, there is no doubt that routine and mundane activities which can be automated will be eliminated. So it's a responsibility not only of this leadership but the community, the organizations like HICIA itself and the government to upskill the ecosystem. There is no doubt we have to do it. It's a problem, it's a cloud there which is going to rain hard on us. So we have a responsibility on us to upskill. Not only that, as we do this, because we are giving time to value, things are getting automated, we have now space for innovation. Very typical example, I don't want to specifically be a harbinger of particular technology, but for example, the Digi Yatra, which lets you now stream through, without somebody having to check. Look at the amount of time we are saving. So the amount of problem space that we are in, and look at the way your traffic is today, the pollution, I mean, the amount of areas that you can actually apply these skills is very important. But we have to start thinking AI first, upskill where we will lose. Because way back in 1960 or 70, I'm quoting Bill McDermott, our CEO, that there was a legislation trying to be passed. Hey, with computers, people are going to lose jobs, everybody. We have to create a new pension system to sustain the workforce. 19 million jobs later, we still can't find enough people to recruit. So I'm thinking, right, it's a strong belief these technologies are so transformational, it's going to create more opportunities. It's an opportunity personally, but we cannot shy away from the governance bit of it. That is the dark cloud in my opinion. So yeah.
Let me switch the gears a little bit to a different topic. And I'm a little bit scared to always open this topic because this topic is discussed by people who are aged. Generally, when you become old, you start talking about values, ethics, etc., etc. So I'm mindful of the age of the panel here, but at the same time, I'll open this topic to talk about what's so important when we are talking about AI, ethics, values, etc., etc. And this also reminds me of one of the quote Winston Churchill mentioned some time back. We shape our buildings and afterwards our buildings shape us. Maybe to paraphrase for this context, we shape our AI and thereafter AI shapes us. And if this is what it is, how do we start thinking about moral values? How do we start thinking about, we talked about a lot of data collection. We're all worried about, I'm sure all of you have seen the same news about deepfake actually capturing information and taking millions of dollars away. And what are we building? How do we need to really start thinking about at early stage itself? I think many years back during the colleges and schools itself, there is a topic on ethics. And this AI ethics, where should it start? And what is that people should look at it? How organizations should start really adopting that? Maybe let me start with Kiran first.
Great question. I think a very apt and relevant question. I saw yesterday, I was reading yesterday and Facebook said that moving forward, they would they'd actually fingerprint AI generated content that is going on Facebook, which I think is a pivotal step in how they're treating some of this content that's generated by AI. I think a very, very prominent step in that sense, including the US government is saying now every video that's put out by the president will be uniquely fingerprinted so that they're able to backtrack it and make sure and say that it is actually generated by the president and not someone else. So these are pointers in the right direction, I think, but at a very high level, I think of 4 or 5 principles that probably are very important in the governance of promoting good AI. The first one is to make sure that AI is being developed for the benefit of the society. It's not non-malicious in nature. So that's probably the first principle. Make sure that it is for the benefit of the larger society in play. Then the second principle is probably about making sure that whoever develops AI in whichever field are taking accountability for the outcomes that it generates. We all know the classic problem of a self-driving car killing people and the conundrum that it has. But who takes accountability? To be able to ascertain that based on the development that's happening is probably the second important principle that all developers of AI should adhere to. The third one is probably transparency. Making sure that it is understood whatever is developed by the larger users of AI itself. Self-explanatory in that sense. And the last one perhaps is to do with human values. I think we spoke about a lot of things about the psychological side of the development of the human element of AI development. And I think very important, I believe that increasingly the world's becoming average. We are probably about 9 billion population, plundering the earth of its natural resources, global warming at its peak. So there are enough problems that we have to solve, and I think AI is probably going to help in solving them if used right. Assuming that we are able to govern it with the principles that we are speaking about. I think if that's probably what I think will help in promoting the ethical use of AI.
Yeah, thank you, Kiran, to start. Maybe Balaji would like to add anything.
Sure, thanks. I think from my perspective, the answers are not too far to seek. And I think probably we can learn from nature. And this is where I want to bring in what is typically known as a complex adaptive system, right? It's an extension of systems thinking, right? So complex adaptive systems have a mind of their own, consciousness of their own, and there are independent agents, right? But they govern themselves beautifully well. Now, one of the fundamental pivots around which a complex adaptive system works is a well-defined set of principles. I wouldn't call them values, but a set of principles and a clarity on the roles and the tasks. I think the time has come now, and we can talk about responsible AI, ethical AI in that vein. But having said that, I think the time has come for the industry to actually take the lead rather than wait and let the regulators take over, because not many of you know I'm a lawyer myself, and I understand the minute lawmakers come into the picture, how it's likely to take a different shape. So maybe it's time for the industry to really take that lead and create an entire responsible and a governance framework within which this industry or this line of knowledge starts operating. And for me, the end outcome of all of this is essentially around how does it really engender trust, right? I think at the bottom of all of it is trust, right? And how does it really ensure fairness? And more importantly, how does it also ensure empathy and responsibility along with it? So those are some of the boundary conditions that I would probably look for.
Yeah, thank you, Balaji. Maybe before I go to the next question, just to make it lighter to my panel, I'm going to request them a little bit of rapid fire question, to each of them one. Maybe remove your professional hats, wear your personal hats and respond to this. Maybe if I may start with you, Vishal, in terms of large language models or small language models, you have to choose one.
Large language models.
Okay, thank you. Maybe let me come to Aditya. Elon Musk, Satya Nadella. Who is going to shape the world?
Elon Musk.
Okay, even the mic is not helping. Okay. Okay. So maybe Kiran, let me come to you. Maybe next year HiCI event, do you expect humans to moderate or you expect AI to moderate?
Tough one. Next year for sure, but I'm not so sure in 5 years from now.
Simple answer.
Next year for sure humans.
Okay, wonderful.
What about the panelists?
Let me come to 1 year of job. Okay, thank you for that. Let me pass the mic to Anuradha. After doing this session while you're heading back home today, are you worried more about traffic or AI?
Traffic.
Okay. Maybe let me make it difficult for Balaji. Which is going to be AI capital of the world, Hyderabad or Bangalore?
In between.
There is no such thing.
Hyderabad. It has to be Hyderabad.
We'll create one.
So folks, I think you heard enough about what we are talking about humans, what skills, upskills required, why it is that HiCI is going to play. Let me a little bit, quickly come to the end of this and giving a conclusion remarks to pass the mic to my colleagues in the panel. We are at a stage where there is a significant amount of skepticism in the world. There is a significant amount of topics being discussed about, are we going in which direction? Are we going the direction where everything is automated? There is no scope for humans. We are all going through universal basic economy where there is no role to play. We'll all sit at home, eat, watch movies, and then governments will take care of giving us money. Is it what it is? That is one extreme of that. The second extreme of that is, talking about there is still significant relevance for humans to play, and that's what we call as about utopia versus dystopia. So maybe I'll go around with all my panels to give their concluding comments about what are they thinking about, where is that we need to invest, how these forums can come together to address that problem. Maybe let me start with Anuradha first, and then probably we'll pass the mic to others.
So I believe in disrupt or be disrupted. That's the key message, I would say. And the other thing is, AI is not going to replace people. People who are using AI are going to replace people who do not use AI. That's what it is finally. So because of that, focus on three things is what I would say. One is focus on the people element in your organization, because technology is not central in terms of AI. People are central to it because the way they're working is going to change. That's the first element, people. Second element is about the aspect of expectations. I think we need to level set the expectation, be specific in your use cases, and then drive towards outcomes. I would say expectations. Third is about creativity, which is a must-use skill. So I would say brainstorming and looking at what those best examples or best applications are for your company or for your project is very important. So I think three things are very important, and focus on those, and then we will be successful. Thank you.
Yeah, I have very similar thoughts as well. Three things. Create AI equity, make it accessible as we have to upskill people. I hate to repeat myself, AI governance, I think that's the dark cloud. Third thing is continue to accelerate on your innovation, because there's so many problems to solve, and AI is a partner in our success for that. So that's how I would kind of put it.
Kiran?
Yeah, I think your question was interesting in that if humans could stay at home, watch movies and do all that, I think they're still relevant. The worry is that you probably will not even have that job. So the fact that you're producing data, consuming movies, means there are going to be more movies made in that sense. So I think the problem statement itself, in my opinion, is complete irrelevance to the point of destruction of. That's what's being debated majorly if you look at AGI per se. In my opinion, going back to all the points made, the way I looked at it, the hand, the head, the heart part, which is all about creativity, so spoken, feeling love, being humor, bringing out humor. These are the kinds of things that I think we would differentiate as humans. I think that's probably our role in the coming future.
So three things. One is the only threat to humanity is humanity itself, right? I personally don't think anything which is non-human is going to threaten us, number one. Number two, I think rather than taking extreme views, a utopian view or a dystopian view, I think it's very important to realize that AI is here to stay. The faster we are able to make peace with it and understand how to really get our handle on it, the better it is, right? And that really brings to the third part in terms of how do, again, going back, that we need to have the governance and the entire regulatory framework around it. But what is most important for us to understand is that we need to shift the lens that we are using. I think it's all about reframing. What is happening today is an unknown issue, an unknown situation. We are looking at it from the lens of the past, our own mental models and frameworks that we are used to. What is the need of the hour is to really reframe the problem and the situation and change the lens with which we are looking at, and we'll find all the solutions. Those are my 3 cents.
Thank you, Balaji. Vishal?
So, yeah, thanks, Jit. I'm going to focus on 2 things. First one, let me start with a statistic. So, according to IMF, about half of the white-collar jobs are going to be impacted in the next 5 years. It doesn't mean that they go away. But what that means is we have to be open to change. We have to be willing to invest in upskilling or reskilling. That applies to all of us as a panelist, everybody in the room, and everybody all over the world, right? So that's very important. Be open to change, upskilling and reskilling as and when needed. Second thing, I think AI is going to have, in my mind, significant positive impact in terms of healthcare and education. And I think we as a country, this is a significant opportunity for us, right? I mean, we have been behind the world for a while. But I think AI is where we are at an inflection point. If you look at the number of technologists we have, if you look at the incentives provided by the regulatory authorities and the government, and then the burgeoning middle class, I think we have all the right pieces available in India to make that leap, finish that last mile and become the developed country.
So how soon GPU is going to be more available for the world?
How soon is?
More GPUs will be available in the world.
Yeah, very soon. I can't put a timeline to it, but yeah, very soon. Sooner than we think.
Okay. Thank you. Now, maybe if I have to just pick it up from the panel mentioned about, application of information is critical, learning agility is critical, making sure we as an individuals as well as our employees are having the social capital as well as the psychological safety is equally important. And then I think what's coming more appropriate for us is about the way we are learning, the way we are doing tasks is actually going to be dramatically different. So it's important we embrace this change and make sure we take and augment the capabilities that exist. So it looks like still we are relevant as humans. Human in the loop is going to play more responsibility and more, actually into the mainstream work that's going to happen. Actually, as Anuradha mentioned about, we are creating the data. I think the data is important. How do we make sure that is protected? At the same time, how do we make sure the next generations are able to leverage the benefits that's been created with this a great ecosystem of the technology, learning and other pieces? I think a larger responsibility on this group here is coming here to spend. I know there are next subsequent sessions to talk a lot more deeper in different topics, but we felt it's appropriate to start with the human in the loop, which is going to be crux of the rest of the session. I would say probably that's the concluding remarks from our panel. I don't know if we have time, Shanti, or we have time for any question? Okay. So looks like consistently we are missing the time for audience questions, but maybe I'll pass my next panel to give some time to the audience. And with that, thank you so much for patiently listening. We're all going to be around for some more time.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.